Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Nadia Smith. I'm BEKA Schréder Senior Communications Officer. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to presenting to you the relevance of the BEKA poll this morning. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the question mark tab and we will answer them after the presentation. Joining us this morning is France. She is the training project manager from Schréder. She will assist us with this platform in the background. There are some brochures available for download in the handouts tab. Please have a look. And we are presenting from home. So again, please excuse any garden wildlife, pets, or children's noises in the background. Derek Watson, our commercial manager, will present this webinar to you today. He will start off with a quick company overview, followed by the key advantages and myths of the BEKA poll, and we will close off with a video showing the manufacturing process. As mentioned before, this will be followed by our Q&A session, and last but not least, we'll ask you to complete a short poll to give us feedback so that we know in which areas to improve. I'm now handing over to Derek Watson.
Thank you, Nadia. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good opportunity to introduce the company. I know many of you have attended other webinars, but I do notice quite a number of new names attending this webinar. So I thought to go through another introduction to the company. We founded the company way back in 1978 in Namibia. We moved shortly thereafter in 1981 to South Africa. And the origins of the company is actually the topic of discussion for today, being the GRP poll, the fiberglass poll. And obviously very shortly thereafter, we naturally progressed into the design and manufacture of luminaires to be mounted onto these poles, which are manufactured by BEKA. We are the leading manufacturer in Africa of luminaires and glass fiber poles, which we are proud to state. We further proudly state that we're a company that employs roughly 340 odd people, with most of us being South African citizens. Very recently, we had an BEE audit, and we can be proud to state that our latest level is a category 3 certification. And our journey with the global company Schréder began all the way back in 2002 and ended with the company becoming a wholly owned Schréder company by 2013, allowing us to embrace all the latest technologies, such as optimizing light control technologies, for which Schréder are certainly well renowned internationally. Looking at the growth over the 4 decades of business that our company has been in operation, naturally our premises have grown over the years, the various additional buildings that have been added on over the years. And as we move shortly towards level 3 of lockdown, we can look to complete our latest expansion and realignment of our facilities, in that we will be incorporating these 2 premises into one, roughly adding about 3,000 odd square meters to our facilities. But at the same time, we will also be realigning our factory completely. So the factory traditionally has been operating in these positions. We will realign into more horizontal. With this, we ensure actually higher levels of output efficiency, together with ever-improving quality assurance and quality control measures, meaning naturally a further improvement of supply of our products to the market. Now, although I'm presenting our GRP poles today, we will also be shortly completely redeveloping our fiberglass pole factory. This project will be completed sometime within the 3rd quarter of this year. I won't discuss it today, but stay tuned for further announcements on the project in the latter half of this year, when we will introduce this newly equipped factory to all our customers via another webinar. Providing lighting solutions for safe, comfortable, sustainable environments. with local knowledge teams with integrated global networks. A bit of a mouthful, but BEKA Schréder were the first South African lighting company to be awarded ISO 9000 Quality Management System accreditation all the way back in 1989. We have subsequently initiated an audit for ISO 14001 accreditation, that being the environmental management standard. This will be completed sometime later in this year. And together with that, we've also commenced the audit on the ISO 50001, being the energy management system audit. And this also will be completed and accredited later this year. Our commitment to energy, saving energy, is not only through our processes, but very significantly through the design and the implementation of highly effective and highly efficient products, both designed and manufactured in South Africa. Our success can certainly be attributed to the ongoing research and development of new luminaires and various pole solutions, meeting the ever-changing demands of the lighting landscape. We, as a proudly local South African company, are certainly committed to utilizing downstream manufacturing of components used within our products wherever practically possible, all designed to perform within our very harsh local environment conditions. Our in-house lighting design team, we are proud to state we have many years of collective design experience available to meet all your specific design needs. Our design team, proficient as well as flexible in providing solutions for virtually all aspects of lighting applications. Further aspects such as ROI calculations being return of investment, 3D modelings, etc., are all easily submitted by our team of lighting specialists. As a design and manufacturing company, we offer lighting solutions for virtually all projects and product segments. And however, today's focus is on our BEKA glass reinforced polyester, or commonly known as a GRP pole, which are suitable for use in all the segments, be it ambiance, be it road and street lighting, various flood lighting applications, all the industrial and industry applications, and the various commercial segments. So now let's consider the BEKA pole. As I mentioned briefly, our poles are perfectly suited for use in roads, in motorways, in urban and residential streets, interchanges, predominantly though, and obviously on the exit and entrance ramps, or in other words, the on and off ramps, various urban areas, whether being such as squares or pedestrian zones, naturally bike and pedestrian paths, various areas, area lighting that could be such as various security requirements or large parking areas, harbors, be it the inner harbor roadways, access roads, or the multiple security requirements within the harbor, sports complexes, we could be in parking lots, access ways, perimeter lighting, security lighting, etc. And generally security lighting in various complexes, venues. It could be perimeter lighting of prisons, police, army bases, air force bases, etc. as an example. Shopping centers, we could be utilizing our poles in parking areas, access roads, surrounding areas, security, plus many other applications, even railway zones as an example. Now, looking at the manufacturing, I won't go into lots of detail on this particular presentation. I'd want to leave it up to the, as I mentioned, the next webinar, which would take place later on in this year, but a brief overview. The poles, our BEKA poles are manufactured using a filament winding method and designed to achieve a glass to resin ratio of approximately 70% glass to 30% resin. This makes full use of the tensile strength of the glass filament winding, which is way more than that of steel. A final gel coat that is applied to a uniform thickness of anywhere between 250 and 500 microns ensures further high UV resistance. Now, this gel coat also includes the pigment according to the color specified. We have, as a natural standard range, a large range of standard colors, but we are also able to manufacture poles to your precise color specifications. We would just require an international color code, be it RAL, etc. Our poles are designed and manufactured strictly in accordance with the South African National Standard, SANS 1749. BEKA poles are the only GRP poles manufactured in South Africa complying to this standard, ensuring a superior quality of product and a very high degree of rigidity and impact strength. The batch ingredients of a continuously wound fiberglass rovings are generally of ground minerals such as silica sand, limestone, soda ash, and borax. The resin is a polyester compound which has a quick cure and adds dimensional stability. Obviously, why we would need the quick cure is because of the rotating mandrel. So we need the resin to cure as quick as possible in order to ensure, as mentioned, dimensional stability. Some key advantages of the BEKA fiberglass pole. Taking a look at the pole, it's used not only for resistance to corrosion. That is certainly a very, very high key advantage for the utilization of our GRP pole, but it's also preferred by architects, developers, local authorities for its very real aesthetic appearance with the continuously tapered pole. Obviously, its intrinsic strength properties, the ease of installation, and the inherent safety for road users, which I'll discuss a little bit just now. And another significant advantage is that our BEKA poles are completely maintenance-free. So there's no corrosion or decay, which ensures that the surface coat of the pole will not require maintenance, nor is there any internal deterioration. Another advantage is the lightweight of our poles. The low mass saves handling, transport, and erection costs during installation. BEKA poles weigh roughly 25 to 40% compared to steel and 10% compared to a concrete pole. They can be transported by a light delivery vehicle instead of a heavy-duty truck. They can be carried and installed by as little as 1 to 2 people, obviously depending on the length. Hence, the installed BEKA poles are far more cost-effective than poles of heavier materials such as steel, concrete, or wood. Now, another significant key advantage is the non-corrosive properties. There is no above ground or below ground corrosion in salt climates or acidic soil. There's no external corrosion, typical examples as shown on the a couple of images there, and also no internal corrosion compared to a steel pole. Now, one would immediately say, how do you get internal corrosion, as shown here? But specifically for salt-laden air, and as well as where you have high acidic soil conditions, you do build up because vapor rises in the pole, because by day the interior of the pole heats up, which will naturally draw vapor up the pole, and by night as the interior of the pole cools down, so the moisture begins to drip back down through the pole, and slowly but surely you begin to get internal rust. You might just see that particular surface over there. That is actually internal. You can see the external surface appears still perfect. The longevity of a fiberglass pole is incomparable compared to any other pole material. This example that's shown on the screen is steel. Over time, our poles will outlast wood, concrete, steel, aluminium under any similar climatic conditions. BEKA poles actually have a virtually unlimited lifespan. The last time I had a discussion with one of the founding members of the company way back in 1978, There were still references to poles that had been installed all the way back in Namibia, which is an extremely highly corrosive environment, and going back to 1978. So that's in excess of 40 years, and the poles are still standing today. And they require no further surface treatment, in other words, painting. Yes, of course, all materials will under UV begin to have an apparent degradation, but our poles are very easily treated simply by using a typical handy type detergent and a bit of a rubbing cloth, and it's amazing, your surface returns back to almost pure original surface appearance. Another key advantage is the versatility. We offer a wide range of spigots or floodlight mountings, base plates, decorative arrangements, which ensures a product for almost every application that the architect or the specifier might throw at us. Non-conductive, so this offers perfect electrical insulation, which prevents accidental electrocution by faulty wiring. Further to that, another use for that would be in substations, as an example, electrical substations, to be utilized as a lightning arrestor. We have in years gone by developed a very specific lighting arrestor pole column in order to ensure that your substation is electrically safe. And then the sustainability. The manufacturing process of glass fiber poles is much kinder to the environment than steel or timber products. Low inertia. There is a significant reduction in personal injury and or fatalities and damage to vehicles in road accidents where GRP poles are installed when compared to other pole structures such as steel, wood, or concrete. As can be seen by these very simple images, a nominal damage to the vehicle, and when you look at the cab of the vehicle in the distance, that is the vehicle there, you can see the cab is almost perfectly intact, meaning that the driver and passengers are inherently safe. Thus, BEKA poles provide increased safety to all road users. Unlike potentially fatal steel, wood, or concrete poles, forgive me, I intentionally did not take a photograph of an accident scene. I felt that would be gaudy and to respect the viewer, but one can imagine potential damage to, injuries or potential fatalities with a structure like as on the screen. Another key advantage is that of the high bending strength. As I mentioned, the aforementioned SABS SANS 1749 standard, our poles are engineered to withstand a wind pressure of 500 pascals, inclusive of a 0.2 square meter luminaire area, with less than 5% deflection of the mounting height. So effectively, if you look at this deflection test, if the mounting was the buried point starts perhaps there, that length of pole over the deflection, if you measure, it's a simple measure, we have allowable tolerance of 5% deflection. And for your interest, that 5% deflection relates to a wind speed of nearly 105 kilometers an hour. Now, for poles, for any other wind speed conditions, we know that certain coastal climates, we have significantly higher wind speeds than that. We are able to calculate and design poles for these specific categories. Vandal resistance. The high impact strength of polyester gel coats and glass filament winding structures ensures a high degree of vandal resistance. It's very unlikely to damage the glass filament wound structure, the actual structure of the pole, with a blunt or heavy instrument. This typical example, 5-pound hammer, smashing the pole, you'll see some nominal damage on the external surface, but that external surface is fairly easily repaired with what we commonly know as a pole repair kit that is supplied. And literally you are able to, if there's nominal damage like this, you are able to repair such damage on site. Moving on to some myths, we often get discussions and people often make comments around the potential myths of a fiberglass pole. So myths 1, fiberglass poles, GRP poles whip around in the wind. Well, yes, they do naturally move, but I can assure you the one reality is our poles offer a far higher degree of quality for the use of street lights, specifically in our new generation being electronics, in that our poles don't have the amplitude of the vibration is nowhere near as damaging and destructive as under typically a steel pole condition. Further to this, our poles, we actually not only design to the 500 Pascal, we also design further to a safety factor of 2.5, ensuring that your pole structure, if it's a BEKA pole structure, will last in excess of 25 years. Another myth is that glass fiber poles deteriorate by sunlight. This is not correct. Ultraviolet sunlight, rays and sunlight will deteriorate only unprotected glass fiber. That's why this is eliminated by the pigmenting the resin and the application of your final polyester gel coat, which I made mention of, which includes UV inhibitors to the surface of the pole structure. So at all times, we have a perfect UV barrier on our pole. The next myth, glass fiber poles cannot support big or large head loads. Each pole, each BEKA Schréder glass fiber pole, is individually engineered by factoring in the weight, the projected wind area, and the wind loading requirements of that particular installation. So we have got so many references to very demanding requirements of wind load, where we have had poles installed for many years, be it inland or in coastal conditions, with significantly higher wind projected areas than normal. But as I say, we then develop and design the pole structure to suit that actual particular installation. Glass fiber poles are made out of plastic. This is incorrect. As I've mentioned, we manufacture our poles under filament winding process, where continuous glass rovings are fed through a polyester resin bath and wound at an even tension on a rotating mandrel, resulting in a mass glass to resin ratio, as I mentioned, of about 70 to 30%, making full use of the tensile strength of the glass filament, which is more than that of steel. Now, moving forward, we now have a short video clip, just a brief 2-minute video clip showing the present day manufacturing process of our GRP poles. Thank you, Franz. Okay, I'll now hand you back to Nadia, and she will discuss further on questions, etc. Thank you, Nadia.
Thanks, Derek. Okay, so it's time for our Q&A session. Please type your questions into the question mark tab. We do have some questions already. Let's have a look. Okay. So there are some questions that were answered, some questions that were posed at the beginning of the webinar, but I think most of them have been answered, but I will read them quickly. So pole strength to sand spec, the color retention with UV exposure, felt fire protection, and the uric acid protection, dogs, etc. That's the question, Derek.
Okay, so yes, the pole strength to sand spec, very definitely, as I mentioned. I also have made mention, not only do we design to the sand spec, we also design with a safety factor of 2.5. The question around color retention, I've also mentioned, that is our gel coat, which ensures absolute UV protection. Felt fire protection to a degree, the answer is yes. However, one must be aware that even a steel pole, as an example, will the hot dip galvanizing is very severely damaged under a heavy felt fire. I know some years ago, I had the privilege of actually attending to an actual felt fire, pole that had been damaged, which was the felt was roughly 1.5 meters high. So typical late summer growth in a high grow area, and we moved into winter creating the fire. And I can assure you, just the external surface had been damaged. We were able to on-site clean the pole up. We were able to a little bit of sanding, and with our gel coat repair kit, we were actually able to get our pole back to structural integrity. There was no damage to the structural integrity of the pole. The comment on uric acid, absolutely no problem whatsoever. As an example, you make comment of a dog. That is, again, the UV protection, the gel coat protection ensures no uric acid damage whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. Then the next question reads, hi, will your GLP masts withstand 270 kilometers an hour wind with the road lighting on top of it? Will the mast withstand the UV content in the Indian Ocean island, which is usually stronger than in South Africa? Thank you.
Yes, so we have designed poles up to 300 kilometers an hour and perhaps more, but I specifically recall a 300 kilometer hour requirement. This is not a problem to us. As I say, what we would then do is we redesign the pole in accordance with our structural calculations, ensuring that our pole will withstand that high wind speed, which is an abnormal wind speed. I can also confirm, as we know, for those of us that live in South Africa, Cape Town has occasionally got very, very severe winds, and we have had poles installed in Cape Town for literally decades now with no structural damage to the pole. And the other comment was the UV, which I've already mentioned. Yes, our UV gel coat is not designed just to comply. We are able to ensure that our UV requirement is very, very high, even in places like the Middle East, where we have installed poles, and they've been installed for many, many years. I've personally was involved in a project in the Middle East that goes back at least 15 years now, and those poles are still in perfect condition.
Okay. Then the next question, in your opinion, what would be the disadvantages compared to steel, if any?
I think to answer that question, if you're looking at, as an example, I'll just use a typical example, 9-meter pole. If you looked at a price list, the initial reaction is, but your pole is a little bit more in cost. but one must remember, what is cost? Do we only consider capital cost, or do we consider the pole at final installation, as some of the comments are made, such as transportation, ease of installation, longevity, absolutely maintenance free? In my opinion, we would be able to confirm with you that over the, call it the expected life period of the pole, the fiberglass pole would be a far more cost-effective solution.
Okay, then the next question is, can you send us the details for the lightning arrestor pole?
Yes, certainly. I'd have to scratch them up. I would like to say, though, whoever asked that question, I will certainly engage with you further. But certainly we do have that on record. And we are looking at a couple of new concepts, which I feel later in the year, we would probably be able to reveal a lot more. But right now, yes, we do have a lightning arrestor solution, which is available, as I mentioned, typically for substations.
Okay, then we've got the following question. Hi, Derek. Isn't the high bending strength the disadvantage? Some municipalities run streetlight conductors overhead. Whether this is good or bad is a discussion for another day, because there will be a reason for that. I am sure such a pole cannot withstand the weight.
Good question. The weight is not the problem. It's the bending. So obviously you have a very high level. If you're running conductors, I'm just using a figure, 40, 45 meters apart, what will naturally happen is the pole will tend to bend towards that middle point of the weight. Again, we have developed poles in the past to overcome that. I don't want to say too much. We do have a solution now, but to be bold and frank with you, I believe in a fairly short period of time, we could be offering a rather interesting solution for you in times in the near future. So again, I'll take note of that question, and we could engage further to have an understanding of what your specific needs are, and we could begin to develop something around exactly what your requirements would be.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, please bear with me. Okay, so the next question. What is your recommendation for 40-meter high mast setup? Would GRP be recommended?
A very good question, and why I laugh is, again, I don't want to let too much out the bag at this stage. At the moment, my answer to you is no. We have a limitation to winding length, which is 14 meters. So the answer is no. 40-meter setup, you would have to use an alternative material, whether it be concrete or steel.
Okay. What colors are available?
Unlimited. We have various standard colors available, whether it be gray, whether it be blue, yellow, red. It's indeterminate sandstone, which is a light brown, etc., etc. But if you were needing to match to a specific color in accordance with the project detail, if you gave us the RAL color, we could develop the pigment to exactly that same color. Obviously, one must take into account that all materials reflect light differently. So if you're going to compare an exact same color with a glossy, smooth surface such as a pole versus an aluminium structure, you could have a slight variation in apparent color. However, the colors are exactly the same.
Okay. In South Africa, where has the GRP pole been a popular installation, and has there been interest from other African countries?
Very definitely. So we have literally got poles. If I mention South Africa, we have poles in every center within South Africa, not only coast, but even in the inland areas, because of acidic soils and all the other benefits of the fiberglass pole that I mentioned, but we have far too many installations to be able to bear reference to. But if that person wants a specific reference, wherever you are based, we would be able to submit to you many different references. And then moving on into Africa, yes, we are supplying many GLP poles into various territories in Africa.
Thank you. Then, sorry, just hold on a second. So being a breakable structure, it would mean you can install closer to roadways without use or jersey barriers or other steel protection devices, correct?
Yes, that certainly would be correct. That is the one benefit of the pole. You might recall that very basic image that I have of the broken pole structure. It has its own natural, what we call frangibility, so breakaway structure, in that let's be frank, the reason why concrete or steel needs to be placed a significant distance away from the roadway or a jersey barrier is because of safety to the road user. As I showed in that image, the safety to the road user is inherent with the use of a GLP pole.
Thank you. Okay, so then what is the maximum weight a fiberglass pole can carry for each headlight?
Yeah, so that is also another good question. Again, it depends on what your specific project is. I don't know if we're talking sports, if we're talking high-end security, whatever it is, we would want to then engage with you, consider what was going to be mounted on top of the column, and we would then develop it accordingly in order to ensure that structurally we would still comply to our design requirements. So yes, but I can assure you that we, as a typical example, regularly design and install 4 high-end floodlights on our BEKA GLP pole.
Okay, thanks, Derek. Then the next question. Can we manufacture a fiberglass pole with a steel interior column in the base for theft proofing, similar to the surface pole but for buried poles? We have been seeing a lot of thefts by hacksawing off the base on our buried poles.
Yeah, so that's another very relevant question. Sad to say, in our present day country conditions, we do know of theft. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter whether it's a fiberglass pole or a steel pole. When people are determined to cut them down, they cut them down. It doesn't matter. We do have a couple of solutions. Whether we have the final solution to prevent cutting off poles, I'm not sure. We have got a thought in our mind. I would like to take that question offline. We do have a concept in our mind that our R&D department, together with our operations manager, myself and the GM, have been in discussions around. I would not like to particularly discuss it online at this point in time, but we certainly have a couple of thoughts that we are conducting various tests and considerations at this point in time. So the answer is we could have a solution for you in the near future.
Okay, thank you. Then the next question. Cost comparison between steel and concrete versus GLP.
Yes, so that I would be able to submit to you, no problem. It depends on the height. The reality is, if you can imagine, the pole is a continuously tapered pole. Our taper is effectively 18 millimeters per meter. So as the pole gets taller, so naturally the fiberglass content increases. But if we were looking at a typical post-top pole, I think pricing parity at post-top heights, so 3 to 4 meters, perhaps 5 meters. Beyond that, up to say 6 meters would be a nominal price variation, but I do always want to make comment on the final cost of an installed pole needs to be compared. And then as a street light column, I think we would have, naturally we do have a higher cost, but it's not excessive. And certainly I would hope to be able to discuss that question in the second half of this year and reveal a little bit more exciting news around our costing. At the moment, it is a little bit more, but not much more. And there is enough benefit and total cost consideration to see that the return of investment on the utilization of a fiberglass pole makes sense.
Okay, thanks. Then the next question, are all poles for in-ground installation or base plate poles, or are base plate poles also available? If base plates are available, are they GI? And what is the process of fusing together GRP with GI?
Okay, so apologies, I can't think in my mind right now what GI means, but I'm presuming steel, mild steel. So yes, base plate detail, we have various base plate details. We insert a steel insert into the base of the pole, and we mechanically fix the two together, as well as a mulch, a fiberglass mulch. So it's a very strong bond. And that base plate could be just a basic surface base plate. It could be a base plate designed for a certain cat ladder requirement. I'm thinking now along the lines of mining type applications where you have lots of walkways and cat ladders, etc. We could develop a pole with a very specific, call it a vertically mounted base plate, not a problem whatsoever. We also manufacture winched or hinged base plates, surface base plates. We also design and develop winchable surface mounted base plates. So that is all part of our norm.
Okay, then is it possible to add brackets at the top of the pole, and how do you do the interface?
Yes, so the answer is yes. The interface is again very simple. It's a mechanical interface together with a little bit of fiberglass mulch, but so all the mechanical interface is not visible. It's all part of our manufacturing process, and that is then coated over, so you don't see the mechanical interface whatsoever. And the brackets, yes, various brackets as a standard. We do all sorts of floodlight brackets. We do camera pole type installations. We do basically double, triple, quadruple street light, perhaps floodlight brackets. So yes, a bracket to suit your needs. What Nadia has mentioned is on the handouts, and in one of the handouts is the pole engineering drawings. And within that handout, you'll see some very typical bracket solutions.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Is there some equivalent of the EN40 norms? And then what is the thickness of the pole?
Okay, so my apologies, sir. This is obviously a European standard. I would have to confirm that standard first. Let me have a look at the standard, but I'm sure the answer would be yes, because the original design of the luminaire, at least of the pole, goes way back into the 70s, and the origins was from Europe. So I'm fairly confident the answer would be yes. The question to the thickness of the pole, that is dependent on what pole length as well as what head weight and wind load we are considering. So the pole is therefore designed in accordance with the requirement of that specific installation. So we have such a large range, but your thickness does depend on the requirement of the pole. But as a rough guesstimate, you're looking at anywhere between, as a standard pole, roughly 4 to 8 millimeters, I would say, is a reasonable guideline.
Okay, thank you. Then we've got a question, can the pole structure safely accept 3 or 4 luminaires at the top of the pole at, say, 90 degrees?
Very definitely. Again, it depends on what your conditions are. We would develop and design the pole to your specific needs. As I've mentioned, when you think about it, if you're at 90 degrees, so I'm presuming we're looking at every 90 degrees is a luminaire. The worst installation is when all luminaires are facing in one direction from a windage point of view, and we have developed poles for that specific requirement as well. So the answer would be yes.
Okay, thank you. Then, regardless of the advantages of the GRP pole, is it more expensive than a steel or concrete pole?
I think I've pretty much answered that already. So, and even during my presentation, if you look at a price list, say at 8 meters, a GRP pole would have a higher cost, initial cost. So your capital cost is a little bit higher, but your final installed cost is certainly going to be a significant saving. And we are developing certain techniques where we will expect a very significant cost down solution in the very near future, which I don't really want to discuss too much at this point in time. But when I say there is a marginal increase in cost, we're not talking double the price or 50% of the price.
Okay, thanks. Then, can poles be recycled when knocked down? Environmental friendliness.
The answer is yes. You can grind fiberglass pole. A fiberglass is easily ground back to a raw state and could be used for various other applications. So yes, certainly you can grind the pole down.
Then the next question, is it possible to have different shapes like bi-cylindrical? I imagine conical shape is possible or only cylindrical? Any limitation on diameter?
Okay, so the answer is at the moment a continuously tapered conical shape, a cylindrical shape. We do have a couple of thoughts in mind that we are busy researching and investigating, and one would hope that in the near future we will also be able to discuss certain other shape designs. But at the moment, cylindrical shape, and we can have different diameters. Depending on what your needs are, we could perhaps increase the diameter by winding at a different position on the mandrel.
Thank you. Then, sorry. What is the top weight the pole could handle? Could the BEKA solar option be installed on the GRP pole?
That's a good question. So yes, we actually we have developed a pole that we could utilize for some of our solar options. So the answer would be yes, specifically where you want as maintenance-free a solution as possible. Yes.
Thanks. Due to constant theft of cable, can the GRP pole be manufactured considering the installation of OHL cable and brackets?
Again, yes, I look forward to engaging with that person in the near future. We have got some very, very interesting thoughts and concepts that we're busy working on right now. I would want to say to you at the moment, the answer is it doesn't make sense, no, but we would like to engage and have a bit of a clearer understanding of your needs, because I'm fairly confident that we will be able to say to you in the near future, yes.
Okay, then what is the sand effect on the gel coat in case of seafront installation?
Nothing whatsoever. I happen to live in Durban, which is a coastal environment for those that don't know. If this is an international question, I'm not sure. But we have got poles installed in the coastal environments of South Africa for literally decades now. Absolutely no effect due to sand, wind-driven sand, no problem at all.
Okay, then the next question. Streetlight steel poles are stolen. I've made any convincing study that we can use to mitigate use of the poles instead of steel poles for streetlights? Or have you made any convincing study? Sorry, have you made any convincing study that we can use to mitigate use of the poles instead of steel poles for streetlights? I am asking this question because a loss of pole is a loss of a fitting and light, which is why both pole and fittings are for.
You
Sorry,
speak
did
my
you get that?
language, sir or ma'am. that kind of question is right up our alley, because yes, we feel that we do have a cost advantage. For that is another reason why one should consider the utilization of a GRP pole, because there is no scrap value whatsoever to a GRP pole.
Okay, thanks. I think that was answered. Sorry. Are there any risks with BEKA poles when the inspection hole is moved higher?
None whatsoever. I'm proud to say it is my opinion that we were the very first pole manufacturers to ever do that in South Africa. The certain metro council that was one of my customers many years ago, that was an exact problem of theirs, and we actually came up with the solution to move the access door further up the pole. We, as a standard, supply on request. We supply the pole with the access door 3 meters above ground level, because that then becomes out of reach of the curious that would want to gain access to the pole, to the access pole. So the answer is very simply done. We just simply redevelop the design marginally in order to ensure that the weight, at least the strength integrity, is assured.
Okay, thanks. Then, is the frangible structure in danger of becoming a secondary missile? Dilemma?
No, we haven't yet ever seen that, because, again, we have, I don't know how many multiple thousands of poles installed around Southern Africa, and we've never yet had a query on that. The reason why is with your continuously wound rovings, when the pole ends up being a breakaway, so in other words, it is completely fractured, the rovings begin to unwind, which immediately begins to reduce the inherent velocity of that structure. So generalizing now, that pole will begin to unrove, for want of a very bad English. So unrove, and the broken portion of the pole will drop some 1, 2, perhaps at most 3 meters away from the structure. So the answer is generalizing no. I've not yet personally, I have the privilege of saying that I've been part of the company for nearly 31 years. I've personally supplied, I don't know how many, multiple thousands. I've never yet had a customer come back to me to say, we have detected the pole becoming a secondary missile. So in my opinion, the answer is no.
Is there any solution to dealing with scratches that occur on poles that occur during installation or storage?
Yes, very definitely. That is what I referred to previously, a simple pole repair kit. It costs a few rand. It's a very simple little system, whether you need any of the fiberglass or whether you just need resin with a bit of gel coat and, well, it's already gel coat with the pigment to your specification. And very regularly we have, particularly in architectural type environments, where scratches are visible on site that is repaired. We've actually just had to do recently, unfortunately, the company doing the installations misbehaved in the manner in which they treated our poles, and the poles looked really, really poor. And it was purely because of the mishandling. And that was very quickly resolved by on-site repair, a little bit of touch up, and you would have to really look very, very closely to be able to notice that any touch-up had taken place.
What is the typical lead time for pole?
Okay, that's a good question as well. We have a fairly wide lead time of, I tend to want to say as a standard, 3 to 6 weeks. The reason being is it depends, number one, on the length of the pole. The longer the pole, obviously, the longer it takes to wind. The quantity, and also the complexity of the pole. Is it a complex pole or is it a standard pole? So that's why we tend to, as a convention, say 3 to 6 weeks. Once we have a clearer understanding of what your specific needs are, if it's just a conventional pole, one would expect that to be on the lower end of the 3 to 6 week scale. Now, I do want to say, without letting the cat out of the bag, we do intend to be able to improve even further on that delivery statement in the very near future. But again, I'm sure everyone will agree, 3 to 6 weeks is a very good lead time compared to other pole structures.
Okay, then the next quick question. Are you planning to design and manufacture CCTV poles with cabinet for equipment?
So we have done it in the past. That is, we installed poles, in fact, in Durban. So again, in a windy environment, a coastal environment. And what we did is we wound the pole further down the mandrel, and it was a thicker pole because obviously CCTV poles require a far higher degree of rigidity. And we did have a solution to the satisfaction of the client. Again, though, one would need to engage to see what is your specific need in order for us to design a specific column for your need.
Thank you. In the video, I've seen metal parts attached to the fiberglass. How is it connected one to another?
Yes, so that's what I said, mechanical bonding, whether it's internal grub screws, stainless steel 316 grub screws, etc., as an example. So it's a natural mechanical bond with the correct screws, as well as a fiberglass mulch, just to ensure absolute integrity of the bond. And then, by the way, all that is hidden with additional gel coat, so you don't actually see the mechanical bonding that we're working on with that pole. But that person is welcome to speak to us. We could actually show in more detail exactly how that is done, no problem.
Okay, okay, that was answered. Okay, so Derek, what information do you need from us so that you can confirm that your poles can withstand the UV content in the Indian Ocean islands? Sorry to pester about this.
No, that's not pestering. I love the question, no problem. So, sir, ma'am, we will obviously have access to, excuse me, we would have access to your contact details. We'll make sure that our export department makes contact with you to engage with you for your specific needs. and we will be able to develop and design exactly to your needs. No problem at all.
Okay, then what are your views on making it standard that all street poles be combined with solar lighting?
Okay, so that is a fantastic question, because we do realize that energy and the lack thereof is a reality to a greater or lesser degree wherever we are based in our world. So we believe that there is a very good case and argument to the use of solar lighting. Let's be frank though, many urban areas already reticulated and reticulated to a level of 90, 100%. The likelihood of switching over entirely to solar is probably not as high. However, we believe that there is a massive argument for the use of solar lighting indeed. And we have developed a significant range with more to follow. That is one of our high-end R&D development programs that we're busy with now. So we already have a number of solar lighting solutions, but with many more to follow in the near future.
Okay, thank you. I think we've answered all the questions. I hope I didn't miss a question. If I have, please write your question again quickly into the question tab. But I think we've attended it to them all. So from my side, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning. Please email us should you require recording of this webinar, and this will also be available on our YouTube channel by the end of the week. We encourage you to visit our website or to get in touch with the relevant branch should you require more information. Okay, hold on. I do see one more question here. There's a comment here, but surely poles will merely be sawed down to steal the solar installations.
Look, let us be open and honest. That is the decision of whoever's the developer or the country or the municipality. For those who want to steal, nothing, there's virtually no barrier. Tragically, we've had installations where theft has been rampant, whether it's a solar installation or a non-solar installation. I can refer back to many councils. Just recently in the area, the urban area that I live in, we supplied some years ago a very significant highway interchange, and the on-off ramps, which I made mention of earlier, if my memory is correct, were around about 105 odd poles installed with luminaires. And unfortunately, those poles, every single one of them were cut down, and the entire installation was stolen, and we had to resupply at the cost of the taxpayer. So whether it's a solar installation or a conventional installation, unfortunately, if we have high levels of crime, it is a challenge. However, if I can just say, we do have some design barriers to reduce accessibility. So call it anti-climbing, anti-vandalism designs that we have developed for wrapping around the poles. Again, I refer to my own metro where I live. Some years ago in some areas where we've installed some solar installations, they are still standing today. We had anti-climbing mechanisms installed, and they are still up today.
Okay. I think that was it then. So please stay online to complete the short poll. It will take less than a minute. There are just 3 questions, and we really appreciate your input. Thank you, and have a great